Our confronting bias training is not implicit bias training. And I know law enforcement professionals across the country who believe in implicit bias training, believe that there's value to that, and I am certainly not interested in debating them or in somehow bad-mouthing that training. I would simply say to you that I am too busy focusing on explicit bias in so many cases, focusing on situations where there is nothing implicit about the excessive use of force or the excessive use of mouth that we see by an officer in a particular case. If we really look at some of the nastiest headlines and some of the most disappointing stories that emerge about law enforcement in the area of bias, I would argue that so many of them are not issues of implicit bias. They're issues of explicit bias. When somebody goes onto social media and uses horrific language, targeting people because of the color of their skin, because of their racial, ethnic heritage, that's not implicit. That's not something, well, gosh, I didn't even know they typed it in there. And they sent it out for the whole world to see. Or horrific comments that are caught on body-worn camera, or caught on in-car camera. Right? These allegations that when I was walking out of the locker room or when I was walking into roll call, I heard Officer so-and-so or Sergeant so-and-so say, well, you know, that's how fill in the blanks are. There's nothing implicit about that. And if we're not careful, it seems to me, we can focus on, all right, now everybody, we're all racist. We all have problems. We all have terrible thoughts. And some of them you don't even know you're thinking. But I think it would be a real problem if we said, don't worry, every year we're having people check themselves to see if they're having thoughts that they didn't even think they were thinking. Okay, got it. What I think is more important is to ask ourselves, and this is the difficult conversation, to ask themselves, if you hear somebody say something, maybe it's explicitly racist, explicitly biased based on an immutable characteristic, or maybe it's just simply showing a disregard for the basic human dignity, humanity of people, particularly those who are struggling with addiction, particularly those who might be homeless, particularly those who are in lower socioeconomic standing. If you start to hear people talk that way, if you see the way that officers, the deputies, the troopers engage with people that don't matter in the same way that the important people matter in our society, are we courageous enough to have conversations? Are we courageous enough to step in and say, that's not how we handle business in this agency? See, that's the uncomfortable conversation.